Trading successfully isn't about predicting the market. It's more so just understanding that the market moves in cycles and understanding price structure and supply and demand so you can identify when the market might be making a reversal off one of those areas, thus being able to time when to enter and exit into certain positions. Right now, this week, I just took advantage of a nice little cycle, made about $35,000 this week alone. So today's video, I'm going to show you exactly what I was looking at and how I did it. All right, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Again, this is not financial advice, just me, Cameron Foose, with about 20 years of trading experience, utilizing it and showing you guys exactly how it's done. And I also do it in real time every day in my Telegram group, telling you exactly what I'm buying, so with profit targets and stop losses. But never follow what I'm doing because that's absolutely stupid. We're going to look at how I made about 35K this week. Not too bad of a week. And it all really just begins and ends with understanding the price structure and the market analysis of Bitcoin. And then I take what I know about Bitcoin and what I know about the US stock market and price movements, and then apply that to smaller altcoins of which move in higher percentages so I can earn bigger gains, taking advantage of that. As we can see, since we actually did long Bitcoin, it's only up about 10%, in which we did buy into Bitcoin right as it was breaking out above this descending trend breakout level, which then would signify a potential move in the markets to then push to the upside, of which we have now seen that. You also saw a much bigger move across the board in Ethereum, but which typically moves in a larger percentage. You can see Ethereum moved about 23%, whereas Bitcoin moved about 10%. And then I just broke that down and then looked for individual coins which were in some sort of similar pattern, or a pattern that I can identify as a high probability setup. I put my money there, set some risk parameters, hope that I don't lose. So I'm usually looking for at least a minimum 2-to-1 risk ratio, meaning that I'm going to make at least double than what I'm willing to actually lose on that trade. And we saw several times here on Bitcoin faking everybody out to the downside, false breakout to the downside, false breakout to the downside, false breakout down to the downside, which we also call bear trap down there. And that signifies a potential reversal, then a trigger of this price structure breaking out here, which then would signal a move to the upside. And then that would give me basically a key indication that, okay, we're now breaking out of Bitcoin. Now I can start also looking for altcoins to buy into. And I was actually more so getting to into these altcoins prior to this happening, because I like to try to anticipate that this is going to be happening, as opposed to then chasing when the move is already there. So by the time Bitcoin had already broken out above the structure, we were already long in the positions that we are currently going to talk about today, because I was anticipating this breakout above this move, simply to the fact that it had continuous downside pushes that were just continually met with buyers and faking everybody out and stopping everybody out of their positions. So let's just take a look at the positions that I was in and how I made 35K this week, which was on APT, GMX, Block, Mana, ADA, DOT, and Sand. So we'll take a look at the Sand situation first. And basically what I was looking for was a breakdown below these lows previously that would then create for us a bear trap, fake everyone out as soon as we broke down this low, fake everyone out here, of which we did start buying the dip at about 72 cents. We had a nice position to the upside, and then we actually retested one more time at these lows here. So almost stopped a bunch of people out again. We continued to actually load up our position and add on this position. And now, as you can see, Sand has made a nice run to the upside off the lows of about 35%, which is significantly higher percentage move than Bitcoin. When you break that down even smaller into altcoins, you can see that they make moves that are higher of about 35%. And I locked in gains, you know, several times. I locked in gains here, 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 and then I believe about here. I never took advantage of any of this move up here into the 90s. I think all my orders for selling were then actually exited prior to these levels about 85 cents, which was kind of my top profit target at that time. You can actually see I don't have that position open anymore here on my Bybit account, but I do have the screenshot showing the actual close positions, which are here on Sand. You can see that the trades were open between 1026 and 1030, which was just this last week. And you can see my total profit for Sand was $8,296 in profit. So not a bad trade there on Sand. Also in correlation with Sand, it's obviously a metaverse play. Mana typically moves in a similar fashion to Sand. So the next trade that we're going to talk about is Mana, which you can see I locked in a nice 3,800 profit between 1026 and 1030. Similar opening and closing dates on these trades. Let's take a look at the Mana trade, which was also in a similar situation. You know, a lot of people would typically have their stops set below this level. And you can see exactly what happened. As soon as it broke down this level, stopped everyone out, bounced back up, then retested that level, stopped more people out, and then started ramping up here, of which I then locked in. My final gain was then locked in on this kind of exhaustion spike. You can see the big spike in volume, a big kind of fake out, which is kind of like, okay, a lot of people are kind of, you know, looking to just exit their positions. And if you look at the grand scheme of things, you know, there is a shitload of upside here on Mana. If this was the bottom of the market, there would be a shitload of upside, but I don't believe it's the bottom of the market, so I'm going to be locking in gains. You know, I could be wrong. Maybe Mana runs all the way up to $1 per coin and we absolutely rip from there, or we consolidate here for a while and then see a secondary run, of which I would potentially play that move as well, depending on what Bitcoin does. But for me, I just, you know, bought the dip here as we broke down. I was actually long up here and then held all the way down, but I actually added to it as we broke down below this. Again, just creating bear trap here, which is now we call a spring, that then sends us to the upside, of which now made about a 24% gain on that trade, of which, you know, we didn't take advantage of all that, but I'm not trying to pick the exact bottom and exact top. I'm just trying to identify a potential move, and if I can squeeze out, you know, at least 20 to 30% of the full move out of there, you know, that's all I'm trying to do as a trader, is just take some piece of this pie and actually lock in gains, and that's exactly what we did, making about $3,800 in profit on the Mana trade. Brief interruption from today's sponsor, none other than Hydra Funding, where you can use pro level capital to earn pro level profits. 75% of traders have accounts under $25,000. Now, this is a huge problem. Why? Because to make any sort of significant money, you do need a large account. If you only have $25,000 in your account, even if you double your account, which is almost an impossible feat to do within a year, guess what? You only made $25,000. In the grand scheme of things, that's not a huge impact on your financial life. But with Hydra Funding, you can get access up to $500,000. All you got to do is pass our 3-step process to get funded. Step 1, you need to sign up for a challenge account with the account size you want. The max size, yes, is $500,000. You can go as low as $25,000, and all you got to do is pay a one-time fee of $250 for access to that account, or $5,000 one-time fee to get access to a $500,000 account. Now, we don't just give anybody money off the street. You do have to pass a single phase evaluation process, of which you can't violate any of the loss rules. Over your own pace in time, you cannot have a 4% loss in a single day or go into a 5% loss overall in your account. Now, step 3, if you can achieve a 10% profit in your account without violating any of these rules, you just passed our single phase evaluation and you will get funded up to $500,000 depending on which account you actually signed up for down below, where you can have $25,000, $50,000, $100,000, $200,000, or $500,000. And if you go to any of the competitors out there, they do have time limits and they force you to try to earn 10% within 30 days, which forces you to trade even if the market's not in the right condition and even if there's no setups. You are limited to just 30 days. On top of that, it's a 2-phase evaluation, so you have to do this 2 months in a row. We don't do that at Hydra. We have no time limits at all. You go at your own pace until you reach your 10% profit goal without violating any of those loss rules, and you will get funded in your account. Another big difference at Hydra is that there's over 1,000 trading instruments. You can trade 50 Forex pairs, 15 indices, 350 crypto pairs, 620 stocks, and 13 commodities. Hydra Funding is a game changer when it comes to the diversity that you can trade all under one platform at MT4 or MT5. On top of that, guys, Hydra Funding is partnered with an award-winning licensed broker called 8Cap. As you can see here, I do have an account with 8Cap. I'm trading live, currently short US30 as well as short USD JPY. On top of that, you can trade crypto, Forex, stocks, pretty much anything under the sun with Hydra Funding. Anyways, guys, if you want to get funded up to $500,000 and stop making these baby gains in your tiny accounts and stop blowing up your accounts because you're taking extremely risky bets trying to double a $10,000 account, check out hydrafunding.io. It's a game changer for new and upcoming traders, and also for the 75% of traders who have accounts under $25,000. The next one that was already fully closed is ADA. Made about $4,500 profit here. I did have a $9,800 profit on the second trade, but I did get stopped out because ADA got super volatile and I lost about $5,200 first, but I snapped back right back into the trade for the second trade, coming in at $9,800 profit. You can see the $5,200 loss, and then the secondary trade between 1026 and 1029 was, you know, $9,800, and then on 1021 I did take that loss and get stopped out of about $5,200. So we can look at the chart here on ADA. I was looking for this to break down, these levels, this level, this level, this level, to potentially break down, and then that actually turn into the washout right around here and then move to the upside. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. I started to buy in here and I got stopped out, I believe, on this day. I was a little bit early on this trade and stopped out here, and then I didn't pick up another position. But as we basically came down and broke down this low again, this was like, okay, we're fully bear trapping the shit out of people right now. Even though I was a little distraught about that, I got back in right around here, about $50,000 position, and then rode this all the way up here, and I locked in my gains right around here on ADA, about 23% gain on ADA. And as you can see, I lost initially, try to keep my composure and just reevaluate, because that's the most difficult thing that traders face is when they get stopped out of a trade. Sometimes it could be getting stopped out at the exact moment where you should actually be buying. And yeah, I've been doing this for almost 20 years and I do still make mistakes. A lot of times I also get FOMO and I actually enter early. I started buying into ADA, I think right here, and then there was still about almost 20% downside from there. So that was, an early entry for me, and ADA had a lot more volatility than most. And as whereas, there was the CPI washout here, a lot of coins didn't actually break new lows. They actually consolidated and then bounced from there. Whereas ADA continually dropped to new lows here and then stopped me out, which I got right back in because it was setting up in a potential nice looking bear trap on lows here that I knew that if the markets bounced, this was going to see a nice bounce, and it actually turned out to be one of the biggest profitable trades. Unfortunately, I lost on the first one about $5,200. So that was the ADA position. We also now have DOT, which is a little bit more similar to the exact chart that Bitcoin's making, right? We have the kind of sideways consolidation with the now descending inverse triangle breakout to the upside, which is basically the same exact pattern that Bitcoin has, right? You almost can't even tell that I switched charts there because they actually look quite similar. So that was the situation on DOT. If we look at this here, same pattern, breaking out to the upside, faking people out right down below these lows, right? The low here, faked everyone out. We bought in right around here, and now we're up nicely on this position. As you can see, I'm still currently long DOT. My entry here was about 602. Now it's at 667. So I'm actually not even up that significantly on DOT, but I've already locked in about $5,000 in gains. I still have an open profit of $2,000, so about $6,000 open and closed profit in total. And I'd like to see this push into the sevens for DOT, and that's where I'd like to start locking in the last piece of this pie here on DOT, getting overbought here on the FlipX, which indicates to me we're probably might be going to be running out of steam for a potentially pullback. And there's not that much room. I'm in at 603, so it doesn't have to drop that much for this thing to go right back to my entry price. It only has to drop about 8%, which is not that much for me to go right back to break even. So I'm definitely always locking in gains on the way up, especially when we start being over bot territory on FlipX. So that's the current DOT trade. There's also GMX, which is a new one that's yet to break out. GMX, we bought the dip. I've added several times, so now my average is at 41.81, but I started buying into GMT at I believe about 38 down here. That was my first initial buys, and I was like, okay, if it dips again, I'll rebuy. But right now it's kind of hovering up towards resistance, and I'm not sure what's going to happen here, but I call this a kryptonite pattern where we actually eventually, it's a new recent ICO, then forms up a triangle pattern and then breaks out to the upside. And right now it's only on number 2 retest going on right here, and that kind of tells me that this is the second test. Typically it takes about 3, which tells me we might have one more retest to the downside, then come back up, retest for the third time before we launch at least to 50. And actually the chart looks much different if you look at the Binance chart. This is just the perpetual contract at Bybit. If you look at the Binance chart, I believe I might have it down here, you can see the actual resistance here and all-time high is about 50. So the chart actually looks slightly different here on Binance, of which I'd like to see at least a move to break out here, then retest about 50 to 51, which would be up in that resistance level. And that's kind of where I'm looking for profit targets here on GMX. But I've already locked in about $3,000 in profits because, we were breaking out to the upside here as we were reaching new highs. I started piecing off that first part of the puzzle, the pie, just because it's only the second test, right? And we haven't really had a chance to have that much consolidation to get in there. The next trade is actually APT, of which I did miss this massive move. I was watching this intraday. A bunch of people in my Wolf chat were actually watching. I was like, I could potentially buy into this right here. And I was looking at this right around here, like, okay, intraday, this is looking very bullish. It's starting to spike up. I almost bought it, but this was like, I don't know what time this was, but I believe it was like late hours my time here in Bangkok, about 10:30, right before I was getting ready to go to sleep. And then I wake up the next morning. It had already skyrocketed, pumped, from 7 to 10. But what I did do is actually buy the dip here. If we look at the daily chart, coming right back down in here, and we're now channeling. And if we break out above this channel to the upside, I definitely think we could see a retest up to maybe potentially all-time highs again, up near $9 to $10 per coin. I do think that is a very probable scenario. I'll even continue to buy lower if we see one more retest down and retest the actual ICO price opening prices down here in the sevens. I'll actually now add small down there and think we can potentially see a nice washout into the bear trap, then push to the upside and potentially retest 970. So that's the APT. Then we also, of course, have Bitcoin still in open position, of which I'm looking to be locking in gains between 21.4 and about 22.3 or 4. 24, and then I'll potentially be looking to get short here on Bitcoin in between about 22.3 and about 25K. So that's the current situation about how I made 35K this week. It's not necessarily predicting anything, right? I had about $18,000 open profits currently, plus the rest of the profits here on these 3 trades for about $35,000 in total. Not a bad week. And all this has to do is just understanding market cycles. A lot of shit was not doing anything for weeks, and it was just patience waiting for this move to actually happen, taking advantage of this market cycle, of which could be over. We don't know, right? US 30 just had the biggest run it's had in 45 years. And if that runs out of steam and calls it quits, of which I'm actually short US 30 right now, if the US 30 is the leading indicator in the markets right now, it's the biggest mover in the markets, albeit of, Ethereum's 23% run. But if US 30 runs out of steam, everything else is probably going to run out of steam, and that will be the end of this market cycle. And if we look at market cycles, how US 30 reacted, I think we're coming to the end of this bullish market cycle for US 30. Hence, that's why I'm short in my MT5 account that we're using through Hydra Funding. Again, hydrafunding.io, our new funded broker platform. Go check it out. But anyways, guys, that's a wrap for today. Catch you in the next one.